All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin NFC North Podcast, episode 40. Vikings patriotic, Lions hang tough, Packers clipped, and the Bears just absolutely mauled by the Jets. Plus, Week 13 previews, all the fun stuff coming up. Welcome once again to our Vikings queen, I guess we should say, Shelby. How are you doing?
I am amazing. I am absolutely amazing. I was at the game, so it was a great game to go to.
That was a great game. We'll get into that as well. And Rev Trev, welcome back.
Thank you. Great to be here and pumped for the future.
Woo!
Well, we do have another Packers person back on. Pack Daddy, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be able to be the heel of the show. I appreciate that.
Hey, anytime. And we are going to have Fantasy Dad coming on with Lions as soon as he can get everything kind of set with his camera and everything. But as I told people on Twitter that if the Lions beat the Bears, that I would go ahead and purchase some Lions gear. And since I'm also an Iowa Hawkeye, I had to go ahead and purchase my TJ Hawkinson shirt. So I've got some Lions gear. So that's the only thing that I think I will branch out. Actually, the Lions, and maybe you guys are the same way. When I think of the Lions, they're really a team that I don't mind.
I agree.
I've got some Lions gear too because I'm a jersey connoisseur and I've got a Barry Sanders jersey. It's epic.
Love that. All right, lots to get into this week. So let's just go ahead and start with the Thanksgiving game, and we'll start with the one that you attended then, Shelby. So Vikings, they rebounded, beating the Patriots 33-26. Tell us what happened and what was like live.
First of all, I think it's one of the best live games I've ever went to. Just the energy was crazy. I had probably one of the luckiest days of my life. Like everything lined up. We ended up getting to row 11, seat 11 on the 50-yard line, which was insane. And
you had some Twitter drama about that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. Some people said it was because I was a blonde bimbo. Wow. Some people said it was because I'm a pretty white girl. I'm like, this was literally only because the seats we were supposed to go into, there was a group of friends, and they were like, oh, we got 2 separate seats. Is there any way you'll sit in our seats so we can all sit together? And I was like, okay, what are your seats? And they said it, and I'm like, bye. We will be there.
Nice.
But yeah, it was just really good vibes. I think the first drive of the game, if there's one thing that the Vikings have been doing this year, those first drives have been very exciting. My main thing is after the first drive, it's like an immediate fall, which makes me wonder what's happening in that pregame speech and what's going on with their play calling in that first drive that then somehow changes up. Because I don't think the other team can figure out fast enough after one drive what to do. So it's very strange. But yeah, the first drive happened. We were like, oh my gosh. And then the second drive happened that they scored. And then it was just back and forth, which made it exciting, but it also made it very nerve-wracking because, when games are like that, it's basically just who's going to score last, because it's just one after another. But again, something about our fourth quarter where everybody learns how to just work together and play together. So that's the thing that we need to match up. The first drive and the fourth quarter. If we could play an entire ball game at that caliber, I think that people would take us a lot more seriously. But it is kind of frustrating because we do fall in the weirdest places. And then you kind of are even me as a fan, I'm looking at it and I'm like, maybe we are frauds. But then you watch the rest of the game and you're like, okay, now I remember why I have so much belief in this team. So it was interesting. It was better when I rewatched it because in the moment you're in the excitement, at the stadium. But rewatching it, I was like, what are we doing? in certain instances. Like our pass defense is excruciating, which I think is going to come into play in this next week.
Yeah, Tomas Henriksen says here they have a set amount of scripted plays at the beginning, and when you look at that, I mean, as an offense, that's got to be you want to see. I mean, you want to see an offense get into rhythm, but if you've got a set amount of scripted plays, I mean, does that kind of like make it a little bit predictable?
Well, I even watched in the press conference after the game, and the play that got the Thielen touchdown in the beginning of the fourth or end of the third, they said, O'Connell had said that they were like, oh, when are we going to use this play? When are we going to use this play? And he was just not using it. And then I guess he saw something and he was like, oh, I decided to pull the trigger and use it, and it worked. And there seems to be a few plays like that every single time they work. So obviously you don't want to use them every single time, but it's interesting that sometimes we're like so in sync and like we know exactly what to do, and then maybe they are doing it to not seem too predictable, but come on, you can't do it for 2 full quarters. That just doesn't make sense.
Well, in the end, though, I mean, these are games in the past the Vikings have lost, so obviously they're winning, and that's I mean, that's really ultimately what matters, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, all I care about is winning, obviously, but it has been really cool because the thing is when we make plays, we make big plays. And I think we're a very explosive team when we actually sit down and we focus. I think this next week is probably going to be one of the biggest tests. I didn't think it was going to be a test, but now after last week, because we look back against Vikings Bears and I was like, how are we making Justin Fields look so good? Obviously, this season has played out that Justin Fields is better than everyone expected, but you look at Mac Jones, what the hell? How did we get him his best game of his career? Like, that shouldn't be happening.
Did you hear that, Pack Daddy, about Justin Fields?
No, I don't ever hear that.
He doesn't acknowledge that.
Well, and we'll kind of move into we'll definitely get into the next week 13 games. But, speaking of teams that are losing, Pack Daddy, what were your thoughts on the Eagles' loss? I mean, were there some positive things, and what are your thoughts then on Rodgers being hurt?
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I've got the main show, and then in the afternoon I've got the call-in show, and I'm surprised. This is the most positive that all the calls have been, just in terms of, because I think everyone's accepted what the fate of the season is. We're not gonna turn this thing around, but what you want to see is the young guys showing some promise. And when you see Christian Watson, we already like Romeo Doubs. He's coming back this week. We're excited about that. Even it was a small sample size, but we all thought Jordan Love was going to come in and just get crucified. I mean, he's coming into a terrible situation against a great defense, and he's coming in cold. He hasn't played in like a year, and he comes in and he gets 10 points in two series, and it's so there's a lot of positivity about that. And just the young guys are showing out the offense. I mean, the offense is coming out of nowhere in a year when everyone's scoring like 20 points a game. In the last 2 weeks, they've hit 32 out of 3 games. So, you're starting to see it click a little bit, which is nice. And also, I think the biggest thing is that the narrative generally is enjoy it while it lasts, because once Rodgers leaves, you're going in the toilet. Well, everything that's positive right now are the young guys. All the receivers. I just looked it up. Somebody had called in, and I looked at it. The rookie receivers across the league, the second highest is like 5 touchdowns among rookie receivers. The Packers have 11 with their rookie receivers. So they're getting a lot of promising things. Now, it's going to be clunky with the Rodgers thing and some of the guys leaving and how that's all going to work out. But overall, I think there's a lot of positivity about the way certain things are shaping out. And honestly, if we can get the defense figured out, i.e. get a new defensive coordinator that isn't pathetic, if you put a good defense with what the offense is doing right now, you're kind of already a pretty good football team.
Yeah, and Trevor, what do you think about kind of Rodgers being hurt, and I mean, how that might have affected the game as well?
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely playing through some challenges. My opinion is like, if you're not going out, then you better give us your all. And he was, in my opinion. I think when he got hit with that helmet on that thumb, that really affected him. He was really grimacing and that kind of stuff. So I don't think he was playing it up either. I don't think he's looking for an out. He had lots of reasons to leave that game earlier, and he didn't. But once the rib issues happen, I'm like, okay, like this is cool and everything, but I'm getting worried for your overall health, and that's something that I was concerned about. And then when they say, "Oh, here comes in love," like the fact is we're like, "Oh my goodness, this is going to go bad," because that's all we've seen is bad. Let's just be honest. We've seen a lot of bad, a lot of interceptions, and we were shocked. So yeah, so Rodgers going out, that was crazy. Like, it was wild what was going on. Like, there was so much drama in the game. It was like our Twitter feed, like last week. So I enjoyed watching it. But one guy no one's talking about because there's so many other storylines is AJ Dillon. Hello, welcome to the party. What is it with this guy? Like, at the end of the day, it's when it gets cold out, he gets good. No. It's like in fantasy, don't pick him up or don't start him until like week 12, week 13, because there's something that goes on with the guy. Like that run that he had to score the touchdown was unbelievably impressive, and he looked good the entire game. So those are a couple of things, it gets overshadowed by the Rodgers getting hurt and the Jordan Love part and the Christian Watson, which is definitely something we should be talking about. But man, I was pumped watching him play.
Well, Christian Watson definitely scares me as a Bears fan, the way he's kind of come into his own. It almost has to be kind of like a, I don't know for you, Pac Daddy, if it's kind of like what might have been like, if he had been healthy, do you think that would have changed the trajectory of the season?
Well, I mean, there's a whole butterfly effect thing. I'd just rather not touch it. I don't know how he got to be where he is or what the magic formula was. And look, I don't know where this is headed. I mean, it's obviously he can't replicate the success the entire career. He's obviously going to go down. It's just a matter of how far. But the thing I like about him is that he has a really high floor at this point. Just by virtue of the fact that he runs so unbelievably fast, we're already seeing not only is he getting by guys. I mean, that touchdown pass, there are 3 people in the league that get a touchdown on that. The Darius Slade did a podcast, and he's like, when you can outrun angles, that's stupid fast. But also we're seeing guys come up. Randall Cobb's touchdown, largely because of Christian Watson. He pulled the safety. So the safety was panicked. He sprinted as fast as he could to get out of there. He just vacated the middle of the end zone. So we're seeing a lot of that. So even if he just never really does very much as far as his receiving ability, his route running and all that, his floor is he's going to run past defenses and he's going to open up a lot of space on the field for the other receivers. And at this point, I'm okay with that.
Well, speaking of his possibly future signal caller, are you all in on the Jordan Love hype train then?
No. I mean, it's the same thing with like Justin Fields. You have a good day, you have a good pass, and of course you're going to get excited about it. But I don't know what to make of 9 passes. I'm glad that it wasn't another terrible performance. It's a little bit of hope. I know we've seen it, but being a great quarterback isn't about a couple good highlight throws. It's consistency, and you can't get consistency with 9 passes, and especially with the defense is real good, but they also weren't expecting you. So if we were playing the Bears' whole game plan would be attack Jordan Love, and we'd have to see what that would look like. So it's, we're excited, and it's good to be able to see those things, the anticipation, the patience, breaking the pocket, throwing off your back foot across your body with velocity. The throw to Aaron Jones was like, holy crap, that was a good throw. So he has those tools, but can you do that consistently for not just a series, but a quarter, an entire game, an entire season? That's the bigger question.
So, Pac Daddy, I appreciate you because, and I don't agree with your Justin Fields takes, but I appreciate you because I think we all, like I saw it on Twitter, everyone's like, okay, we got this, few series of Jordan Love, and he's going to be the next great Packer quarterback, and he may very well be, but that consistency is important. I mean, early on in the season, actually probably off season, I had a Viking fan, Shelby, talking about how Kellen Mond was better than Justin Fields. So I mean, I slow it down a little bit. And so Trevor, are you, I mean, you obviously like what you see then from Jordan Love.
I do. But I'm not fooled by the preseason games and everything. Mm-hmm. So to say I'm all in, no, but that was the best I've seen him. And I appreciate what Pac Daddy is saying, because like it's going to be nice to watch. My personal opinion is we're going to see a lot more of Love this year. I think once we are mathematically eliminated, it's going to be the Jordan Love show, and that's very possible. And we're going to see. I mean, we need to see. I guess fans don't need to see, but maybe management's already seen it in practice. I mean, Campbell's been talking about how incredible he is, but I didn't know if he's just sticking up for his teammate or if that's legit. A lot of people say a lot of things about practice and training camp that aren't true. But that was the first time you're like, wow. Like the only pass is the one when he was on the run and he was going to Watson in the end zone. It's like he missed him by quite a bit, but that was also a really tough pass to make. And so I'm wondering to see like he's saying is let's see a little bit more, but I'm like the first time in my life I'm actually excited about Jordan Love. So that's what I'm saying is that's where I'm going with this, is that for the first time my narrative's changing a bit. We drafted wrong. You caused all the drama. That's not what I'm interested in. I want real legitimate guys, and maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, Thomas here says that the Packers are already eliminated. So
I almost wish that was true, because my thought is I do think that the Packers are going to play Rodgers until we're eliminated. And unfortunately, I think we're going to keep winning games, and we're not going to be eliminated until way too long, and we're going to see like a game or two of Love, and that's not going to be enough. That's my fear. Don't get me wrong. I want to beat the Bears, but I'm just afraid it's going to be, just continuing this thing. And it's like, I know we have 1.5% chance, but we got to shut this down because this is getting a little stupid.
So this is interesting, and I know, Shelby, I wanted to bring you back in here. Obviously, you have not been a fan of Rodgers. We talk about stats and stuff like that. But number one, they're paying him $50 million, and I know you want to see what Love is, but you're paying a lot of money for him to sit down and rehab. That's going to be tough. But that might even be tough too, convincing Aaron Rodgers, because I think he does want some of those stats. I mean, is that kind of what you're thinking, Shelby?
Yeah, I feel like not even just stats. I think his ego is way too big to be like, it's fine. As a Vikings fan, I kind of feel like it's similar to like Anthony Barr, Danielle Hunter, where we're paying them for nothing basically, and then they come back and it's like, I get it, you want to play, love you guys as players, but it's just never really the same. And the fact that Rodgers is a lot older, the fact that it is the season's, how many more games do you have to lose to be eliminated? 2? 1?
It depends. We maybe, I don't know if
I guess it depends on who else wins, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it is coming down to, because Rodgers, at the end of the day, you look at Rodgers and Brady, and the main thing is that Rodgers' stats are so much higher. And now, it's kind of taking out, well, he's not going to have as many Super Bowls, but the last thing he has to hang on to is that his stats are crazy. I was talking about Trev on Twitter, where it's like, there's no denying he is the regular season king. Statistically, his win percentage and everything is amazing. So I think the fact that he's still getting paid, I don't think he has the mental power to just be like, you know what, it's best for the team. I'm still going to get paid anyway. Let me just sit out. I think he's not going to be able to just sit there and stand by and take the money. But if he's hurt, with him, I just don't really know, honestly, because maybe he'll be like, oh, now the pressure is not going to be on me and people can't say it's my fault anymore if we lose. because he gets money either way. So, he's a confusing man to me.
Let me just step in just for a second, because I actually think that you got some really valid points there. But what quarterback's like, hey, sit me down? Every single one of them is high competitive alpha dogs, and they want to play, right? So maybe he's playing through things he shouldn't play. Like that's my only pushback on that. Is like, I don't think that can be as valid as like, well, his ego's too big, he wants to play. Everyone wants to play. You don't think Carson Wentz wants to be playing right now? It's like,
well, that again is ego, though. Like wanting that, you have to be. You look at every great person ever. Everybody that you look. Okay, Michael Jordan, for instance, greatest player of all time. That man is so cocky, so egotistical. But you have to have that little bit of narcissism and egotistical mindset to be one of the best, because you have to feel that way about yourself, because there is going to be people like Shelby Tweten on Twitter that's dogging you every week. And you got to be able to look at that and not be fazed, So I think that it has been really great for him to have that mindset. But I think that now when, your team is not winning and you're not really doing anything to help, and maybe you could do something to help the future of the team by letting Love start over you. That's kind of where, and how we've talked in the last weeks, where it's like, maybe he should have been throwing short passes. Maybe he should have been running the ball more. All of those things could have made a big key difference in some of the losses. But at the end of the day, I think, like Trev said, no one's going to be able to just be like, let me just sit here, if he knows he can play in some capacity.
I mean, it's clear. You look at some of those throws, and it's just, he still has that. I mean, I don't know how much he's declined or what it is, but obviously the team's not winning. The team is, missing a lot of pieces, or a lot of young pieces, to make it that Super Bowl caliber. But when you look at Pac Daddy, when you look at this season and whether or not, however it goes, whether or not, they sit him for a certain amount of games, will that affect whether they decide to maybe trade him in the offseason? Or are you just kind of, because at some point, as a Packer fan, you need to move on and need to say, okay, well, this is the next quarterback. Or do you just say, okay, Rodgers is in until he says no?
Well, that's the tough part right now. And I was just kind of talking about it doing the podcast before I did this. And, if on the off chance, and I don't think it's going to happen, but let's say Jordan Love does get a significant amount of time and he just absolutely lights everything on fire, that really is going to change things, because this organization has no choice but to look at it and say, we have to move on. Like we have to, we can't risk losing this guy so that we can hang on to Rodgers for a year before he decides to go off and do whatever he's doing in the mountains. That's, so the problem is, Aaron Rodgers said essentially he was mad because he felt like the team wasn't committing to him, because they kept offering him things that would allow them to move on from him. He didn't like that. So the team gave him a contract that basically said, we can't move on. It's up to you. You hold all the cards. So now we're kind of stuck. I mean, there are some maneuverings that you can do. I mean, the thought I had, if you did want to move on, would be to just go to him before and say, just letting you know, we are no longer going all in. We're doing a rebuild, which means some of your buddies are going to be getting cut, and, we're going to be focusing on the younger guys. And yes, we're going to be investing in Jordan Love. If you want to come back and help us with that and help to groom him and, just say things that are going to freak him out, and then he's probably going to end up leaving, because that's really the only option. You could try to trade, but the contract sucks for the team that's taking him on. And Rodgers can obviously torpedo any of them and just say, I'm not going there. So sorry, I'm not doing that. So
I was going to say, probably the most passive aggressive way to get rid of an off season is to cut Randall Cobb.
Well, that's what you would do. You would just say, of course we'd love to have you back, but we are going to start a process of building for the future. So Randall and maybe Bakhtiari and Aaron Jones and some of these guys, we got to have some conversations about maybe moving on from. And I don't think he wants to come back for a rebuild. So I think that's the Packers' nuclear option if they decide that Jordan Love is the future and we are moving on. But otherwise, if they're indecisive, which is why it's so important we see Jordan Love rather than doing the stupid dance of, hey, we got a 1% chance. Like, who cares? We got to decide what to do as an organization. Are we bringing Rodgers back and trying this again? Or are we moving on with Jordan Love? Or neither and finding a new quarterback? But we need an answer to that question, because right now this is just a nothing thing that we're doing. Like, okay, cool, bring Rodgers back and win 7 games next year. Great. That's not a solution to anything. So
no, as a Bears fan, that's kind of where I've been in limbo for a lot of years.
Right.
And with that, talking about rebuilding team, the Bears were just mauled by the Jets. Eddie Jackson, Mooney injured for the rest of the season. And, when you look at that game, it's just, they had backup quarterbacks, one getting injured in the pregame. It was just a mess. And it was rainy. So I was glad that Justin Fields didn't play, because they would have got him hurt more. So when you look at, this game, it's just, I don't know if it's more about how the Jets are. I mean, they've got some pieces, but I don't know, what you guys are thinking, but I just think it was kind of the Bears' ineptitude on defense.
Well, the Jets defense is incredible.
That's a big part of it
well.
too.
So,
Exactly.
and you're not Fields isn't playing.
Yep.
So, a lot of people were picking up Jets defenses in fantasy.
Well, the first 2 drives, they looked all right, but then it just kind of, settled down, and yeah.
I think it was a messy game too.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was nice because the thing about the NFC North is, like, a lot of times, okay, I'm watching the Bears game, so I know about the podcast, but then I'm also getting to watch our next week's opponent. And it's like, I did kind of have to separate myself from the fact that, are they actually this good, or are they just playing the Bears and, like, playing the backup quarterback, and they don't really know what they're doing, and like you said, it is rainy. So it was just kind of a sloppy game, which could be good for the Vikings because they're coming off what they think is like a solid win. But the Bears, do we know if Fields is going to be back? Mooney's another big loss.
Yeah. And so they brought back, and we'll talk about that coming up, but they did bring back NFC North stalwart Tim Boyle for the Bears. So, which is pretty much, thinking that Fields won't play. So he's going to try it. He's, been day to day. I don't think he's going to play. I honestly hope he doesn't play. I mean, right now, I wouldn't mind the Bears continuing to lose. It's just, there's nothing going to be accomplished. I mean, you talked about the Pack Daddy. I mean, when they're eliminated from the playoffs and you can get a higher draft pick, there's really, and maybe this is a outsider fan perspective, but there's nothing you can accomplish from a team perspective other than, maybe stats. I mean, and obviously maybe it's different from players inside the building. I mean, they're all, fighting for their jobs, but when I look at the Bears, I don't see, many more wins coming. I mean, it's possible they beat the Packers this week. I don't know.
This week,
it's possible.
Yeah, it's parity in the league sometimes.
I'm not expecting it, but it's definitely possible. Let's see. We'll add, and we are welcoming Fantasy Dad. He's kind of working on his let's see if his sound and everything is working here. We'll make sure everything's right for him, but when he gets on here, he's for our Lions perspective here, but it's possible we can kind of get into that. Obviously you look at week 13 keys. Trev, what are your thoughts when we look at this week 13 Packers at Bears?
Yeah, what's funny is in regards to this Rodgers health question, like he's saying he's healthy and he's good to go. I don't think he is. I think he's just playing because he's wanting to continue to own the Bears.
Yeah.
He knows he's going to be able to do well against the Bears because the defense is so horrific. He's going to look, the team on wholes could look really good. Right. Now that I say that, it's going to be a close one. And then anyways, so I actually think that we're actually going to see Jordan Love play this week. So that's something that no one's really talking about. I think he plays this week. But in regard to the game, I'm just excited to watch Christian Watson again, and I'm excited to see what the run game is. The thing that I'm most worried about, I think, is David Montgomery seems to play really well against us. I mean, granted, everyone seems to run really well against us. So, but traditionally, he's played really well against us too. So those are some of the parts that I'm looking for. I hope that Justin Fields plays, because if he doesn't, it's just going to be like, this isn't like, you were supposed to go to the game, right?
I was thinking about it. I don't think I'm going to now. So
but like, I would go to the game.
Yeah.
I would go to the game just like, man, I could see Rodgers and Love. And if I could see Justin Fields as well, then I'd be excited.
Yeah, it's really hard to kind of know. I mean, you're paying, high prices, and then it's probably worse than the NBA. But when you talk about like how expensive it is to go to an NFL game, you want to see top players, and you want to see them do well. I just don't know when I look at this depleted Bears secondary, and I just, if Rodgers is playing, if he's not, I still think Jordan Love can. The Bears can make Mike White look good. I think the Bears can also make Jordan Love look pretty good as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what are you thinking for score? Like,
oh, I don't know. I'm Pack Daddy. What do you think? I'll go after you guys.
Well, I'll tell you this: if I want to see, I don't think Jordan Love will play unless there's an injury. But I would love more than anything to see Jordan Love and Justin Fields showdown. That would just make me so happy. But I'm probably, it probably is going to be Aaron Rodgers and whatever quarterback the Bears decide to trot out there. But like you said, Trevor Siemian will probably run for 200 yards against us, so that'll suck. As far as the score, I don't know, because it is the defenses that are the problem, but it's also rushing. It's a lot of running, and running doesn't generally lead to a ton of scores. I mean, it can, but it's not the fastest way to get to 35 points. I do tend to lean higher scoring. Like I said, the Packers offense is kind of clicking. The only real caveat, and I said this last time we were on here, is if you can stop the run, you're going to stop the Packers. And that's why I said I think they're going to have a good chance against the Eagles, not necessarily winning, but the score, because they're not a good run stopping team. And I don't think the Bears necessarily are either. So I do think the Packers are going to score a good amount. But the Packers defense, it's not just the run defense that's bad. They've given up. I mean, you can just see it when you go back and watch the plays. You watch some of those big runs. Guys aren't even trying. I mean, a 5-yard run turns into a 20-yard run because the defensive lineman turns around and is like, somebody else will get it. And then Rasul Douglas is looking like, I don't know, somebody else will get it. Everybody's just jogging out there. They've given up. The defense has lost their hope, their desire, their fire, whatever it is. And so they're not even trying anymore, which is pretty sad to see. But so I do think the Bears are going to be able to get some damage done. If you're putting me on the spot with a score, I don't know, 28-21 Packers, something like that.
See, that's an interesting, and when you go about like moving the ball, the Bears, they've seemed to really kind of running the ball. They've kind of had issues, obviously, without Fields. I mean, that takes a huge chunk out of it.
Yeah.
But without Khalil Herbert, that's hurt as well, right? And so, I mean, if you've only got Montgomery, you got to stop Montgomery. And the Bears' offensive line has been issues all year. That's why I put on here. One of the keys is going to be like getting Velus Jones Jr. More involved, and he's proven that he can't really catch, right? So I think they're going to have to maybe hand the ball off to him a little bit, use some different sweeps and things like that. And so just how creative they can get with the offense to move the ball. Now they don't have Mooney. They're going to have to get like Cole Kmet involved. When I went to the game versus the Dolphins, they were doing some running the ball with him and just getting creative that way. I think Luke Getsy's going to, want to try to, do something versus the Packers. But tell you what, without Fields, there's just that element that's not there. I just don't know how they score 21 points. I was thinking, 35-14 Packers. Just with the secondary, like how depleted they are, and just Watson and Rodgers is going to want to stick it to the Bears. I really think when you look at this game, this might be his last hurrah, right? He might just say like, still on the Bears, and whatever happens after this season happens, but the Bears could never beat me. I don't know, Shelby, what do you think from an outside perspective looking in?
I just think it's really going to depend on who starts as the quarterbacks. Like what you guys were saying, if it is Rodgers, I think maybe like 21-10. I don't think it's going to be a huge blowout like that, but that is going to be huge. If it's, let's say it is Love against Fields, it's anyone's ball game, really. But the fact that it's at Lambeau, it's Packers Bears, it's just, you just never know.
No, it's actually at Soldier Field.
Soldier Field.
Yep. So
Oh,
that's the only thing. I mean, the Bears have a chance that way. I just don't. It's just hard to see them scoring any points with everyone they have out. And you know, Fields was, you know, probably 90% of the offense. I mean, obviously Montgomery is great too.
yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, so Pack Daddy, you're not really. You don't think the Packers defensive line can stop Montgomery?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, who knows? They could maybe find some fire if they come in fired up and the Bears just can't get into a rhythm. They could stay motivated. I just think they lose their fire quickly. So, you know, you come out, you get a big 10-yard gash and you get a big pass, and it's not going to take much for them to give up. So, I mean, if the Bears just really struggle, and they could, like you said, there's not much to work with here, you know, especially if Fields isn't there, you don't have that. I do think even if you just have one guy, it's not going to make a difference. You could walk up and say, hey, we're running right off the right guard here, and they wouldn't be able to stop it. It's that bad right now. But yeah, I mean, the hard part is they have to finish, right? You can get the chunk plays, but you still have to complete the passes. You got to get, you know, the 3rd and long completions. You got to punch it in the end zone. That might be kind of tough, but you know, it could, special teams gaff here and there, a turnover. You could find some ways to get some points, especially if the Packers' heads are just not in it. Maybe 21's a little too high, but I think the Bears are going to have success moving the ball. Scoring points, that's kind of a separate issue. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm not too optimistic about us stopping anything, especially since running is your strength and that is our massive weakness.
So if the Packers were to lose to the Bears, what next for the Packers season?
Well, everything as far as my podcast is going to start on fire. The call-in show is going to be great. That's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, the calls for sit him immediately, this is a joke, this is pathetic, is going to start. And the problem is we're not going to be mathematically eliminated, and then we have a bye week, so we can't lose. And so again, it's just going to be there's going to be a lot of anger every second that goes by that the coach doesn't come out and just say, hey, just so you know, we're benching them. People are going to lose their minds. I think that's what's going to happen. Probably either way, but especially in a loss, it's going to get pretty ugly.
What do you think, Trev?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be close, but for some reason we make games that we're supposed to win close. So, but I don't know. I just keep thinking about your O-line. I keep thinking about, you know, now you got the depleted corners. You don't have Herbert. Like, there's a lot. So
safety's gone. Yep.
Yeah, like I think everyone's going to look good on the Packers, and everyone's going to pretend like we're good, except for all of us who are realistic and watched for a while. And I mean, we're not going to fool anyone else. We have all these other games we've been bad at. I just think that the Bears want to lose right now because they want a better draft pick. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you? You're not making the playoffs either. You think Houston's trying to win right now? Like, they're going to get number 1 pick. They want number 1 pick, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how they're going to try to turn their franchise around, is get that stud player. So, you know, I don't think Fields plays, but I hope he does, because it's going to be ugly quick, in my opinion.
Well, let's go ahead and bring our Lions guy in here. Welcome.
Ooh.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So the dad thing's not just a gimmick. That was me trying to use technology that whole time. So.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Welcome, Fantasy Dad. You know, and we've been talking, you know, a lot of Packers Bears stuff, but we can really, you know, kind of segue into, you know, this week the Lions. You know, they've shown a lot of fight, and you know, when you look at this Jaguars, you know, game, are you kind of, you know, thinking that this momentum is going to keep going this week?
Being a Lions fan, no, but right now I'm just looking towards. The pieces. You watch that game on Thanksgiving, and you can see all the pieces starting to come together. You've seen James Houston's debut. Awesome. Was it 2-3 tackles he got? Malcolm Rodrigo was on fire. I'm just looking for the pieces to come together. Honestly, I think Trevor Lawrence and the Jags are gonna have their way with my boys, but I would love to be wrong. But they are the Lions, and they do what they do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you beat my Bears, and that's why I'm wearing the TJ Hawkinson jersey. I'm also a Hawkeye, so I'm representing the Lions a little bit. But when you look at the Lions, I mean, is DeAndre Swift going to play a lot more? Is he healthy? Or really is Jamal Williams kind of taken over that number one running back? I mean, in the red zone, he's just, crazy good.
Swift is not 100%. And to be honest with you, I'm starting to be curious whether he can actually handle the full workload. I mean, he's explosive as can be. I mean, they love Jamal Williams there. I mean, if you watched Hard Knocks in the preseason, you saw that. I mean, he's great for the team, and he's playing. I mean, no one's seen this coming this year with Jamal. But I think Swift is not at 100%. But just watching him from last year to this year, I'm starting to get a little curious whether he can handle the full workload. But I don't know. It seems like every time he's in that lead role, he breaks down, and that's starting to develop into an ongoing issue, I think.
Well, I mean, when you have Jamal Williams, I think that's good as well. But then also you look at the receivers. What about the Lions receivers? And is Jameson Williams going to be, back this week or not?
I think he's going to be week 14.
Okay.
I do. I think he'll be an immediate impact when he's back. But I think at this point, they held him for so long. I mean, he was injured coming into the season. I mean, if he's just limited this week, I just don't see them rushing him back. It doesn't make sense at this point. I mean, even though we're 4-7 in Detroit Lions fandom, that's a winning season, and we're about to have a parade over it. But I just don't see the point in rushing him back at this point. You kind of want to get him out there and see what he has for next season. And I just think week 13 is just asking too much right now. I think week 14 is going to be it.
Well, week 13 is going to be interesting for one of the receivers, DJ Chark, coming back. Yep. I mean, do you see him having a good game against his former team?
I do. I mean, I'm not one to buy hugely into the revenge script, but I mean, you know him. He's going to be a boom or bust guy, but I think this is a good setup for him to have a game. I could see him getting, one deep one and a touchdown.
And then, on the other side of the ball, like, what about stopping Etienne? Is that going to be a problem then the Lions defense has been, I wouldn't say Bears bad right now, but they've been bad, right?
Like I said, leading off, there's definitely pieces there. I mean, there's a couple of guys that are definitely going to be the future there. But overall, I mean, it's hard. Every week I'm writing about who to start every week and, people's fantasy teams and whatnot. And it's always people going against my team, which is just stinks to say every single week. But, I mean, their defense is not stopping anybody. I mean, I think Etienne is just going to have his way with them, assuming that he's healthy and ready to go.
Obviously, the line's been playing better. When you look at the kind of the rest of the season, how many more wins do you think the Lions can get? I mean, they're still in playoff contention, unlike my Bears. I mean, obviously, you've got Jaguars, Vikings going to be interesting. How many more wins do you got here?
Honestly, it's this week, or I don't see there being another one. I mean, this week it could go their way. Trevor Lawrence looked great last week. I think I just think he's going to take them. But, I hate to be the negative Lions fan, but that's pretty much where we're at right now, being a Lions fan. You just kind of always expect the worst. And, I mean, you get games like Thursday where you lost and you're happy just that it was close, against the Bills. But, I think if it's not this week, I don't see them winning another game. I'm looking towards all the pieces for next year and looking forward.
So we're going to have you and our guy, Seventh Letter, on. He's Gmo here. He says he's the positive Lions guy. He's, 4 more games, I believe.
Sorry to let you down.
Yeah. So he's on vacation in paradise this week. So, which when you look at Lions history, that hasn't really been paradise, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of hope when you look at the Lions. When you look at the receivers overall, I mean, there's a lot of, talent there.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, the offensive line is looking really good this year. And, I mean, Goff has actually surprised me a lot this year. And it's going to be interesting. I mean, DJ Chalk, like you mentioned, is good, but I think he's a good third option. I think once they get Jameson Williams and St. Brown together, it's always going to be, I don't know how they're going to make that work with Goff if he can handle that. But if he can, they're going to be a super explosive offense.
Hey, as Bears fan, I'd love to have DJ Chark, as any option right now.
That's what I mean. For a third option, that's great.
It is. Well, let's we'll get into a little bit more Lion stuff here, but I wanted to shift focus then. Shelby with it's going to be the presumed king of the North for this year, the Vikings. So we left the last spot for you.
Yes.
What are your keys to the Week 13 game versus the Jets?
I'm a little nervous for this game, to be honest. Their defense is scary. I know, weeks ago I said that the next 4 games were going to be intense. Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Jets. We've won 2 out of that 3, so I do feel good. But looking at that Cowboys game, it's kind of similar. The defense, we do not do good with aggressive defenses that are willing to fight. I think that is the Jets. Their pass defense is second best in the league. The only thing that we have going for us, not the only thing, but I feel like Jefferson is probably going to have a lesser game, and it's going to be more on him taking people away, taking Sauce away to focus on Thielen and Osborne and Hawkinson. But the Jets haven't let a tight end score this year.
It's going to be a Hawkinson game, I bet.
You just never know. He could come through. Osborne has not been doing what I remember in like week 2 and 3. We were like, oh, Osborne's going to be a threat. And he hasn't really been doing much. But I think that if he has a chance, he could make some plays. Our defense is probably I'm more concerned about our defense than our offense. Just after this last week against the Bears, Zach Wilson did have a good game, but I think that he's kind of unpredictable. But I'm just so worried about our pass defense. They're almost embarrassing sometimes. After watching last week, it's like sometimes you're watching and you're like, what are you doing? Like they're moving, it's like lagged. Like they're moving very slow motion. And obviously I always say that we tend to make lesser quarterbacks look good. So I think that the biggest keys are going to be Zadarius Smith needs to have a great game because Wilson isn't as good under pressure. So we're going to have to put a lot of pressure on him. And then Cousins.
Mike White. Legendary Mike White's going to be playing.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I was. Yes. He's not as good under pressure. And Danielle Hunter, it would be nice. I don't understand why we're not doing more blitzing either, which I think we should probably do a little bit more of. And then if Cousins has time, I think that we'll have a better chance. But obviously their corners are, some of the best in the league. The 2 games that we've lost is when Jefferson got shut down. So not having Jefferson in our defense is probably the things that I'm most worried about.
Yeah, and you look at this game, I look at, the hype around Mike White now. I think we had that last year too. Didn't we have that a couple games? Trev, do you remember that? Like Mike White, did really well. And I don't know if he's going to be, if he's really that good or if it was just the Bears defense.
Yeah, it probably was just the Bears defense, but yeah, I think the Vikings, they should come out on top on this. I think the Mike White piece is interesting though. Being a Packers fan, we got surprised by the Jets. We didn't realize how good they were, and especially their front 4. they destroyed us. So I think their secondary is very good. Don't get me wrong, Sauce is playing out of his mind, but that D line is ferocious, and I think that's what you were talking about, Shelby. Is that when they play against a team like that, that's difficult. So that's where I get concerned. I hope you're right about the Hawkinson touchdown, though. That would be really great. I still don't understand why they traded Hawkinson. Maybe having a Lions fan here might help, but I don't get that trade.
It makes no sense for me. Still, I'm still working it out of my head.
Well, they weren't going to pay him though, were they?
No, but I mean. They're playing good this year. I mean, the offense looks good. I mean, the defense is the problem. It just didn't make sense to let him go. Like when they let him go, Especially you trade them within the division too, of all things,
Yeah.
It was wild. I was just sitting there like, I was looking at my phone like, you got to be kidding me. I literally made a fantasy trade that day to get him on my team. Hey. I'm like, I've got to get him right now. So,
yeah.
So here's back to some of the Vikings Jets stuff here. Tang Sauce Gardner's good, but he gets away with a lot of holding. Are you kind of seeing that a little bit, Pack Daddy?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
a little bit would be my answer.
And when you look at this, Thomas was saying that they're going to try to go after Sauce, and they may. I mean, that may be a bad thing for Cousins if they try to go after him. May have an early interception, Shelby.
Yeah, that was actually kind of what I'm worried about, because one thing I've loved about Cousins, which I've said this year, is he's taking a lot more risks. And the thing with Jefferson is, he's been able to throw it up and he makes those plays, but this is not the defense to kind of be pulling that. So I'm very interested. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of a conservative approach because they do have so many interceptions. But also I feel like I could put money on Peterson getting another interception this game too. So I meant earlier, you guys didn't stop me when I was saying Wilson that whole time. And I was talking about White, but I think that he's unpredictable because we don't, we don't really know as much. I think this whole season with QBs has been a roller coaster, especially for NFC North. But yeah, I think that this is the first game other than the Cowboys and obviously the Eagles way back then. I'm kind of like, I'm interested how it's going to go. I'm also watching with the Jets fan, so I don't have good. Nice. When I watched for the Cowboys fan, we lost. So
I'm thinking the Vikings are going to win this one. What were you thinking, Trev?
Well, this is where I'm a little confused. Like, I understand we're giving Sauce a lot of credit here because he's had a really good year. But if you're Jefferson, isn't this a statement game? Like, if Devontae Adams is coming into town, he's not worried about Sauce.
I don't think that Jefferson is worried.
Well, it just seems to me like Vikings fans are worried about this. And I'm like, I think Jets fans should be worried if he's that good and everyone's kind of naming him as the next great wide receiver. Like when Adams was playing Ramsey, it was over. Like, now he was a little bit older and that whole thing. But I think if you have Cooper Kupp that's playing against Sauce, we're not talking about Sauce. We're not afraid of Sauce. Like, this is Cooper Kupp. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that, excuse me, that's the mentality for your team. And so say he covers him. Man, you got Adam Thielen who doesn't drop nothing. Like, that's, I don't know. You got Hawkinson now. Nobody's even talked about running the ball yet. Like, they're solid, right? So I don't know.
I think the conversation with Jefferson that you bring up is good because someone, I can't remember if we talked about it on here, but I did watch an interview where he has more yards than Randy Moss, but Randy Moss was so capable of like getting away from people. Jefferson, he makes amazing catches and he makes some explosive plays, but he's not like very big. Obviously Randy Moss was just a lot bigger and very
freak. He was
an athlete. And Devontae Adams, again, is a completely different type of receiver. Jefferson is he gets jacked up, but I feel like the reason that other than being Vikings fans and kind of being the devil's advocate, we haven't seen one of those games yet where he's going against this crazy corner and making plays. There's been a couple games this season already that he's been completely locked up. It'd be different if I think that he's one of the best catchers in the league, and he is only 23. He's very young. So I think that's another reason why people are like, yeah, he's going to be one of the greats. But right now, he needs to be able to get through those games where he's completely locked up. The Eagles and the Cowboys game, he was nowhere. Can't remember the other game this season that he had like 17 yards or something.
Hey, Shelby, Thomas, this is what I live for. I love Vikings Twitter is probably one of the most amazing things. So Thomas coming at you here, even a fellow Viking, a Viking on Viking crime here. He says, give up your fan card, Shelby. Shelby, you have no faith.
He clearly doesn't follow me on Twitter.
But that's what, like, I think when you're honest about your team, and especially when you,
I like to be realistic.
Yes, I think you have to be realistic. Yes.
And I don't want to, again, as a Vikings fan, I have literally bawled my eyes out, sobbed, cried, gagged, panic attack when we lost against the Eagles in the NFC Championship. I've never felt, I've got my heart broke, I've been cheating on. That got me, okay? So I am trying to remain as realistic as possible, because I am too grown to be in the middle of Buffalo Wild Wings crying my fucking eyes out. But yeah, I mean, if I were to be like,
someone's got to film that.
I have a video. I will send it to you, Trev.
Okay.
Hey, Fantasy Dad knows about that too, about Lions heartbreak too, right?
Trev, shoot me that video.
I just love it. Someone just wrote an interesting tweet beneath about the defensive line rattling Cousins, and I do feel like when Jefferson doesn't produce, and I love Justin Jefferson. I mean, from a fantasy aspect, I have him in every league I could possibly get him. But I feel like most of the time when he's shut down, it's more of a Cousins problem than a corner problem. I mean, Cousins just gets rattled. I mean, sometimes he looks like the best quarterback in the league, and other times he just melts, and I can see, I think the Vikings will pull it out, but I can see a world where that defense just gets to Cousins, and when that happens, Jefferson kind of doesn't have a shot,
Well, our offensive line was looking good last week. So it's funny because really the only people we've mentioned, it's like Cousins and Jefferson. Those are the two people, if they work, I think we'll win.
Yeah, exactly.
If either one gets shut down, our defense, I can't count on our defense for shit.
All we've talked about Rodgers a lot.
Right.
So it's the guys who are in those spots that are stars. But I'm excited to watch the Vikings Jets game. I think it's going to be great.
Well,
yeah,
and so
good game.
You talk about the offensive line here. I think, and I put a key here, Quinnen Williams versus the Vikings interior offensive line. I mean, that's kind of been an issue lately, hasn't it?
What was the question?
Quinnen Williams versus the Vikings interior offensive line.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got like I went down a total rabbit hole in my head for a second because I've literally been talking so much shit to this Jets fan all week. And now I'm like sitting here being like, oh, I don't know if we're going to win. And I really hope he doesn't watch this.
You're going to win. You don't think you're going to lose.
Thomas
I actually don't.
Thomas is getting pretty heated here. When you look at this game, it's been really weird as a Bears fan.
Wow. Tom is getting serious right now.
It's been really weird as a Bears fan.
We get Tom on the show right now.
I might have. I've been trumpeting the Vikings, all off season. I thought they were going to win and all of that. And so maybe it's as a Bears fan, I get kind of look back and I probably have more faith in the Vikings because I'm not emotionally invested. I mean, I'm emotionally invested. I'd like to see like I said, I'd like to see the Vikings go to the Super Bowl and lose. But I think that, Cousins, he has that opportunity to really switch the narrative. And I think he's starting to. Obviously, yes, when he's pressured, he looks pedestrian, but so does Rodgers, right? You know, some of
Right.
these quarterbacks, they do. And so when it comes to like all around effort, I think the Vikings are going to win this game. I think they're going to keep the train going. You know, they may lose to the Bears at the end of the season when everybody's benched, right? But when you look at the Vikings, I think they're right up there. And I do agree, Justin Jefferson, he is probably one of the best one or two, maybe top 3 wide receivers in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that for me, you know, this is the first year other than because even Minneapolis Miracle year, I didn't really think, oh, I could see us in the Super Bowl. That's why I was a Minneapolis Miracle, because no one was really expecting us to get to the NFC Championship. Now it's kind of like, first of all, Kirk Cochains is going to have a grill by the end of the season.
Mr. T.
But no, I'm going to be at the game I'm going to be the game in Detroit next week. I don't know if you're going to be there at the Lions game next week, but I will be there. So if you go, let me know.
Do you live in Detroit there?
I'm actually a New Englander.
That's what I thought. I thought the
I
accent.
thought the accent, but I was like, I don't know if that's just like.
I don't hide it very well at all. No.
So how did this Lions stuff happen then? I mean, no one
answer that question so many times a year.
no one purposely becomes a Lions fan, right?
I mean, honestly, I've never really. I'm going to get all my Patriots fans. Listen, I don't want to crap on anybody here, but I liked Brady and obviously the championship run and stuff. But growing up, I just never was a huge Pats fan. It's just as I don't know. I mean, we're lovable losers. I mean, I was a huge Barry Sanders fan. Megatron, huge, you know, and now it's just, you know, you're younger, you just choose your path. And I think I tell my sons, they chose their team. My son decided to be a Dolphins fan. I mean, I don't approve of it, but that's what you want to do. But I said, that's it. Now you're stuck. You're stuck for life. So when I was younger, that's who I picked, and that's who I'm sticking with.
Tell you what, yeah, I mean, you look at I'm from Iowa, and closest thing we had, you know, the Cubs, Chicago team, lovable losers. So I totally get that. I followed them even though they stunk. And we had the Bears, you know, 85 Super Bowl run that we still talk about. And so I totally get that. So I wanted to kind of touch on, you know, one thing. Obviously, we're looking at, you know, the season, and when we look at who's going to end up in last place, is it definitely going to be the Bears, Pack Daddy?
Well, this week will tell us a lot, that's for sure. I would say that's probably the best bet, especially with the injuries. But, you know, if Aaron Rodgers gets shut down and that Jordan Love thing was a fluke and the defense kind of continues to give up, I don't think it's impossible that the Bears flounder and the Lions are. It's a 3-way competition right now for who's just going to completely, you know, crap the bed the worst. But I would probably say the best bet is the Bears right now.
So, you know, that's interesting you say too. You know, when you talk about, like, as a Bears fan, I want to see the Bears. I mean, it just benefits them to continue to lose, so they can be higher in the draft. When you look at the Packers, it almost benefits them to be higher in the draft, because then they might have that opportunity then to pick a higher quarterback. I mean, I don't know what you think.
Well, I mean, that's another reason why we need to see Love. You know, do we want to get that high pick and go get a quarterback, or do we have a guy? Right now, we have no idea. And that's, you know, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's why it's like we only have a handful of games. There's no benefit to playing Rodgers anymore. We need to know what we got in the guy. But, I mean, either way, a high pick's going to help. Even, you know, if Rodgers comes back, there's some talent, you know, whether it's defensive guys. You got the Skoronski guy whose grandpa played under Lombardi, you know, as an offensive lineman. Be awesome to get that guy in. I mean, high picks always help when the season's already done. I don't know that I want to be higher than the Bears. I'll just be completely honest. If I had my way, you guys get number 1, we get number 2, just because I can't handle it any other way. But yeah, I mean, you don't really want to root for your team to lose, but I think that's what's best for the team is to just, you know, help the future. Don't worry about this year.
Well, yeah, and Fantasy Dad, do you think that the Lions definitely go quarterback first?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm praising Goff for playing better than I expected him to, I just don't think that they have the pieces, I think, to actually make a run in the next year or two. And Goff is not the guy that's going to get them to the next level. So I think that would be the smart decision. Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. A lot of great stuff. Where can everyone find you again, Fantasy Dad?
I'm on Twitter at TRWARD25. It's TR Ward 25. I write an article, Dad Moves, that comes out on every Thursday for the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. That's at TFF Dudes. Check us out. Give us a follow.
Love it. And Pack Daddy, other than the Jordan Love fan zone, or sorry, I was Jordan Love fan zone. I was gonna say actually Justin Fields fan zone. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so Justin Fields fan zone would be the most important thing. Come check me out there. But Pack_Daddy on Twitter, Packernet Podcast is the podcast if you want to come check it out. If you're interested in why I'm not a huge Justin Fields fan, I'm about to start getting into that. I can't help myself. I think even my listeners are like, dude, move on. I can't do it. So if you're curious, there will be some information in the coming days.
I am definitely going to follow that and tweet along with it. And Rev Trev, where can everyone find you again?
Yeah, on Twitter, RedTrevK. I'm going to be doing 4 videos this week. And Andy, one might be with you about the Bears-Packers preview. So I'm looking forward to that. And as well on YouTube, I am Kempner Sports. Please check me out. Hit that subscribe button for all of us. That would be really fantastic.
And Shelby, where can everyone find you again?
Shelby Tweten, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Follow me on Twitter at your own risk.
All that good stuff. You know, it's all in good fun. I think when like I say on Twitter, I don't take myself too seriously, and
No.
I was all ready to be on a rant this week, but you know, I've kind of calmed down a little bit because I think when you look at I've calmed down, I've mellowed. When you look at some of the takes, there's a lot of good, you know, things from I think every team in this division that you can look for the future. Now, you know, where it goes, I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I think that we have a very interesting division, and I think that we're fun to watch. I love being here. Love all y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
Once again, it's the Freezin 4 NFC North. Thanks everyone for coming, and we will catch you again next week. Hopefully, we're definitely going to have some Lions, Viking stuff to talk about, and
I like that.
Maybe another chapter in this Packers, Justin Fields and Jordan Love debate. I mean, this is going to be a fun next few weeks to see kind of where everything goes. Thanks again, everyone.
Skull.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.